Hari Raya Puasa or Eidul Fitri is here. Many know for a month before that, Muslims puasa or fast by not eating and drinking for the whole month, from dawn to dusk. Many also see Muslims go visiting in colourful attire, not just for the day, but even for the whole month, also, not to mention the Hari Raya Bazaar here in Singapore, in Geylang, Serai, in Kampong Glam, where you see some food and drinks that only appear during this season. Yeah. However, for other religions, many may not know what are its significance and which practices during Hari Raya Puasa that are religious, or they are just also cultural. There may also be questions that you may not have, that you may have about it, but afraid to ask, your friends and so on. Anyway, no fret. Today we have Ustaz Khalid Rafi. He is with us today as our guest, and hopefully he can, enlighten us. And before that, I would like to introduce him. He is a father. Later, he will tell us how many children he have. And he is a research executive at Wak Tanjong Mosque. He also holds a Bachelor in Syariah or Islamic law from the University of Madinah, and a master's degree from RSIS, Nanyang Technological University, in Asian Studies, specialising in studies in interreligious relations in plural societies. He enjoys engaging the public through interreligious dialogues to promote mutual respect and understanding for a progressive community. So, Ustaz Rafi, so that's your father, sorry. Ustaz Khalid, welcome to WADT. How can I forget your name?
Thank you, Brother Hafiz. An honor to be here.
Yeah, usually we have a question for every guest that we have here who happens to be a father. So, are you ready for the question?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, the question is, what is fatherhood all about to you?
I think that's a tough question with regards to fatherhood. To me personally, I think I would relate fatherhood to be someone who can guide his children, right, to make them to be someone that is beneficial in this world and also in the next, right? Someone that can contribute to the society, someone that can be the best version of themselves. Now, in theory, it's always very easy and it seems very beautiful at that. But to put it into practice, I think it's something more of a journey. In fact, I think fatherhood is just not about us learning or imparting or guiding our children, but also I think it's a journey on ourselves that we would be able to learn from children as well. So I think that's what fatherhood is to me.
So we get all kinds of answers from fathers. That's why we like to ask this question. A simple question, but we get all kinds of answers, and it just shows that fatherhood is not so simple, and to many people is what they think it is. Rightly or wrongly. Okay. Anyway, very nice sharing. So for today, as we are talking about Hari Raya Puasa or Eidul Fitri, we have invited you specially, to clear doubts that Paksen has. Not that I cannot learn anything from you. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot. But Paksen, all to you. What questions do you have regarding Eidul Fitri or Hari Raya Puasa or even Ramadan for that matter?
Why do you think I have any doubts about Hari Raya Puasa?
I do not know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you don't, I'm in trouble. I'm going to ask him question that I already know.
Well, it's not about doubt, but I'm hoping to, do a deeper dive into this very important day in the Muslim calendar, and to have a greater appreciation, understanding. So to start with, maybe you can help me understand or to know how many major days are there on the Muslim calendar. Major days as in, significant days like Hari Raya Puasa is one. I know of Hari Raya Haji. Any others besides these?
All right. So as we know, Muslims, they have their own set of calendars. So they use a lunar calendar. I think the Chinese also use them. Hinduism also relates to the lunar calendar, and it's a 12-month calendar. All right, so it follows the movement of the moon, and therefore you will find that in these 12 months, you will find that Muslims have 2 days of celebrations. So on a yearly basis, there's these 2 main celebrations. The first one, as correctly as how you've put before, is actually Hari Raya Puasa or Eidul Fitri, or Hari Raya Haji. There's a Malay term that we use, or Eidul Adha in Arabic. So these are the 2 main, and these are the 2 celebrations, celebrations for the Muslims. Yeah.
Okay. So let's focus on Hari Raya Puasa today because it's just around the corner. Yeah. So what
This
is
time
the...
actually.
Okay, yeah. What's the significance attached to this, this day, Hari Raya Puasa Day? It's definitely not the Muslim New Year, right? So I think many people might think that it is like celebrating the New Year, but it isn't the New Year. So what are you celebrating?
Right, I'm so glad that you bring that up. Usually, when we find in our society, community, sometimes when they talk about Hari Raya Eidul Fitri, and then usually they will say, "Oh, it's your New Year," and then when it comes to Hari Raya Eidul Adha, it says, "This is your second New Year." So that's some of the misconceptions that we have in our society. Yes, and as how you've pointed out correctly, this is not our New Year. Our New Year, in fact, is known as Muharram. Right, so that is the first month in the 12-month calendar. All right, and the first month is known as Muharram, and that is when we celebrate the New Year. Now, the one that we are going to be celebrating soon, which is Hari Raya Eidul Fitri or Hari Raya Puasa, all right, it is the first day of the 10th month. So the 10th month is known as Shawwal. Now, this is usually being observed because Muslims have already fasted for the whole month before that. So in the month of Ramadan, which is prior to the month of Shawwal, you'll find that Muslim fasted, they refrain themselves from certain things, and as a mark of celebration, as a mark to show that it is the end of this fasting month, this is where we celebrate Hari Raya Eidul Fitri.
Okay, so it's basically we have successfully gone through that month of fasting and kind of restrain. It's not just from food and water, I suppose, although that might be the main thing, right? So, but it's also a month that you can maybe, choose to refrain from certain other activities or, like habits or something like that.
Mm-hmm. True. When we talk about fasting, it's not just about refraining from eating and drinking. All right, it talks about self-control. It's about how you deal with yourself, how to be the better version of yourself. So when you talk about the concept of fasting itself, then you will find that it is a way that we use to get closer to our Creator. All right, it is the month that usually we would recite the Quran, our holy book, and try to reflect upon the internal meanings of the Quran. It is the month that we would practice kindness and generosity more than any other particular month, right? So it's something that we say it is a school of Ramadan. It's a school that would actually train us and educate us in becoming better versions of ourselves.
Okay, yeah. So it's a month where you focus on yourself and maybe I would call it the spiritual disciplines and things like that, because you talk about reading the Quran and but you still do pray 5 times a day, right? That means, do you pray more than 5 times a day during this month?
All right. So for the 5 obligatory prayers, that continues outside and inside the month of Ramadan. But we have a special prayer that we usually observe during the nights of Ramadan. So this is why usually you will see throughout the whole month of Ramadan, you would see that the mosques are quite packed, right? And you would see that that the prayers is something that the Muslims we call it Salat Tarawih. right? It's a prayer during the nights of Ramadan, and we would usually pray it for about maybe the average of 1 to 2 hours, right? So that's where we would again try to draw ourselves closer to God. But again, when we talk the month of Ramadan, it is just not about a means for us to draw ourselves closer to our Creator alone and then neglect the society or the community. In fact, it also encourages us and commanded us actually to give more attention to those surrounding us from among the community, especially from among the poor and the needy.
So this fasting is on the 9th month according to the Muslim calendar, and Hari Raya Puasa Day falls on the 10th month. Why these months? Why the 9th and the 10th? Is there some significance to these months, or is it commanded by maybe the Prophet Muhammad in the Quran, or how are these months chosen?
All right, so this is where you will find that the 12, from an Islamic understanding, the 12 months is something that's been decreed by God. And when the 9th month, which is the month of Ramadan, it is known as Ramadan because it comes from the word Ramadan. Now, Ramadan means the scorching heat, right? So the Arabs, they used to name their months according to certain prominent things that happen or some of the significant events that took place during that particular juncture of time. So we will find that the 9th month, all right, it usually coincides with the heat, the scorching heat that's being experienced by the Arabs there, and therefore it's known as Ramadan. In particularly, why we fast in the month of Ramadan, this is due to the guidance of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where he says that, it is the month that we are supposed to be fasting. That's how it's being legislated by him.
Okay, all right. So he's the one who kind of gave the instructions, or all right. So that's where it began, huh? All right. Thank you for that.
So I want to ask Ustaz Khalid. I can ask,
yeah, sure. But maybe I can explain a bit more. Usually the injunctions of when to do certain things always comes from God, but it is being sent down to the Prophet, and then he would relay the message to the community.
Yeah, so I have a question, right? What is significance of? I know that the Quran was revealed in Ramadan, correct? In one of the first revelation, correct? Is there significance there to relate the revelation of the Quran and fasting in Ramadan?
Right, that's a very good question. You will find that some of us in the community, we might assume that, Ramadan is virtuous, or Ramadan is important to Muslims because they have to fast, right? In fact, Ramadan is virtuous and it is full of merits due to the fact that the Quran, or the Holy Book, right, according to the Muslims, it is being revealed to us in this particular month. And to enjoy that and to remember that, right, we are also asked to observe fasting. So this is why you will find in the Quran, God says that Shahrul Ramadan, that it is the month of Ramadan that the Quran is being revealed. And then subsequently, you will find every other acts of devotions are being encouraged, are being commanded upon us, so that we would remember this event.
Okay. So it's there among Muslims, as they are fasting, and also bearing in mind that it was the time back in history where the Quran, the words, was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. Is there an anticipation or kind of an expectation in the hearts and the minds of Muslims that during that month they might receive some revelation from God also?
Okay, all right. So from an Islamic standpoint of view, you will find that the Quran is being revealed to the Prophet, okay, peace be upon him, and after his demise, it is deemed to be completed. So during his lifetime, there is a verse that's being revealed to him, and in fact, there's a verse in the Quran that says that today I have perfected my religion for you. I've completed my favors upon you. All right. So with that verse, it shows that the Quran is complete, and it has been fully revealed upon the Prophet. So today we do not have that kind of notion of someone receiving revelations or continuations of the Quran upon any other individuals, because the Quran is the word of God that is being revealed to the last prophet, which is Prophet Muhammad, and is in the Arabic language. So that is the definitions of the Quran.
Okay, so during the fasting month, Muslims would read the Quran in a sense to think about it, to meditate on it, and to reflect on it, and of course finally to act on it.
Yes.
All right, that's good. Okay.
As much as we can.
As much as we can,
We will
yes.
try to recite as much as we can.
Yeah.
Pakistan, before you go on, I got another thing to ask or point out. Because when there is, I know a verse that enjoins about fasting, since talk about fasting, right? It talks about, fasting is prescribed for you, that means the Muslims, and those prescribed, those before you, right? And I know that Christians also do fasting, and I'm not sure that the Jews, the people of the book, but what are the difference within this kind of fasting, and what is the purpose of comparing, saying that this particular act, all right, or act, a religious act has been passed down, similarly to the previous people. Ustaz Khalid.
Right. Okay. So you will find that in the Quran, it is being said that, O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed to you as how it has been prescribed to those before you. So naturally from this verse, all right, you will understand that fasting is not a new phenomenon that is exclusively being revealed or being practiced by the Muslims alone. In fact, it is being practiced by the communities even before the Arabs. All right. So we will find that fasting has been prescribed to the previous prophets, such as Prophet Moses, Prophet even Jesus, even Prophet Abraham. So it goes way back to the lines of the prophets before Prophet Muhammad, and this shows that fasting is such an important form of acts of devotion that it is maintained throughout the different prophets. So, for example, even from Abraham through Moses, through Jesus, and finally to Prophet Muhammad, it remains so relevant. It is so important. It has its significance that it is still being practiced by the last community, because the Muslims believe that Islam is not brought forth it's not a new religion that's brought forth by the Prophet Muhammad. In fact, it is a continuation of belief system that is being brought forth by the first prophet, which is Prophet Adam. The only thing that changes along the line is the way on how it's being practiced, and that is known as the Syariah, on how it's being put into motion. And as how Brother Hafiz actually pointed out correctly, that not only Muslims are fasting, but also we have fasting from among Hinduism even. All right, you have fasting that's being practiced by the Christians, and particularly the Catholics, I think during Lent. And then we also have in Judaism Yom Kippur. All right, the 10 day of atonement, and the last day, you will find that fasting is also being practiced by other communities as well.
Right.
That's right, and they do it for maybe slightly different purposes or intentions and all that to accomplish different goals. But yeah, I think fasting seems to be a common thread in most religions and faiths. So there must be some significance there. All right.
I think in terms of social perspective, no one would argue that fasting doesn't come with any forms of benefits, because when you're hungry,
even
then
medically. So I've seen a lot of people now practice fasting. They call intermittent fasting and all kinds of fasting, and they see the benefits of the health benefits of fasting. So it's something that probably it itself can be done not for religious purpose but for other purpose. All right, but particularly, right, Ustaz Khalid, in the context of Islam, in the fasting in Islam, is it as such, because I see certain people is during fasting that they talk about losing weight, especially. But a few days after fasting, Hari Raya cookies, the rendang come, then they start saying, alamak, I gain more weight than I was fasting. So what went wrong?
Right. I think this is where we have to look at fasting, not about refraining from just eating and drinking alone. Fasting is about having control over your desires. Fasting it goes up and beyond just refraining from eating and drinking. So when you fast, let's look from a social perspective. When you fast, you understand the plight of the poor and needy. So this is where you would find that since you know the difficulties that they would have gone through on a daily basis, perhaps, so you would be more, you would be encouraged to be more generous, right? You would give into charity more than anyone who might not have gone through or who might not have experienced hunger pangs. All right, so that's one perspective that you can see. You find that when you have extra, you find there's a joy in sharing whatever little that you have with others. Right, so that's something that fasting is also encouraging us to look at. And also, when we talk about fasting, as how it's being mentioned, that it is a way for us to have controls over our desires. Now, during the fasting month, we would be refraining from excessive eating and drinking, because we say, Ustaz, we only have a few hours during the night for us to eat and drink before we have to go to sleep. And then after that, we're going to carry on the whole cycle of fasting again. And that goes through the whole 30 months. But after Ramadan's over, with the coming of 1st of Shawwal, with the coming of Hari Raya, I'm going to do qada. Qada means you're going to have a payback. Right? So what kind of payback? So from the first house, I'm going to plan all the food I'm going to be eating. It's going to subsequently throughout all the houses for that. Well, if you're going to drag it for 30 days, according to the culture, then after that, I'm going to have the whole spread of buffet. Now, that goes against the spirit of fasting, because we understand that the fasting is about having control of our desires. And in fact, we are only encouraged to eat whatever that is necessary and whatever that is sufficient for us. Now, this does not say that we are unable to enjoy the luxuries of life. We can, but within limits. Right? So there's a balance of things there. Yeah.
And the fasting starts from sunrise and ends at sunset. Is there again a reason for this?
Oh, this has been shown by the Prophet. So it is how it's being shown by how we are supposed to practice our fast. So yes, we are supposed to refrain ourselves from all the nullifiers of fasting from dawn until sunset. But in actuality, we've already waken up a couple of minutes, maybe about 1 hour before dawn, and then we have the pre-dawn meal. So that's where usually you will find that Muslims are encouraged to actually utilize their time wisely, especially during the early hours of the day.
Okay. So now coming to the Hari Raya Puasa itself, the first day of the 10th month. So it's a celebration of, that, okay, the fasting month is over. So you kind of, what kind of ways, or are there any traditions, when it comes to this celebration? What do you do?
All right. So on the first day of Hari Raya, so this is where usually we when we wake up, we are encouraged to dress ourselves nicely. We are encouraged to take a bath, observe personal hygiene, personal grooming. All right. And then wear the best clothing that we have. So this is why usually you will find the families that comes to the mosque, you will find that they are wearing all kinds of, well, we would say celebratory kind of clothing. You see there's a traditional ones from the Malay community, there's also from the Indian community, there's also from the Chinese community. So it is not to limit itself. So you can wear kurta, the traditional wear from among the Indian community. You can also wear samping, which is the Malay traditional wear. You can also wear whatever is actually prevalent in your community, in your distinct or unique community. And we wear the best clothing that we have. And before we make our way to the mosque to perform our prayers, we are encouraged to actually have a small meal. All right, so we're just gonna have a sip of water or just eat one date, and then we are gonna go out and make our way to the mosque. Usually, it can be done in the open field or anywhere, but in Singapore context, I think it's much more easier for us to perform such prayers in the mosque, and therefore they will make their way to the mosque, and that's where they would be reciting certain prayers alongside, and then after that they will be performing the prayers. After which, then they would listen to a short sermon that's being delivered by the khatibs, or the one that's delivering the sermon, and at the end of it, they would now congratulate one another. So they would hug each other, they would shake hands, and then they would say, "May God accept our good deeds and yours. May God forgive us, and may God forgive you." And then, they are encouraged to even, in fact, this is part of the teachings or the guidance of the Prophet, we are encouraged to actually take different route to and fro the mosque. So if you're going to come from one route, you're going to go back to another route. Now, the purpose being, you are able to meet more people from among the community and spread joy to them. So that's the purpose that we have there. And then usually when we go back to to our families, and then that's where it takes more of a cultural stand, and this is where we would take the proper meal, I would say, the main meal with our family members before going out and visiting each other.
Well, that's an interesting thing, coming to the mosque one way and going home from the mosque a different way. Is that actually practiced? Do you know?
It is practiced, but you will find that it is not extensively, because usually people will just like, okay, I'm just going to come from this exit, I'm just going to go out from the other one. So
okay,
Yeah, usually take
I
public
guess we're all
transport.
creatures of habit.
If you take public transport, you better not take a different transport. Then you go
I came
somewhere
by
else.
bus, I'm going back by taxi.
Yeah, but I think the principle, right, is a principle that you explained just now. The chance for you to see other people along the way, and wish them and so on. Maybe there are other wisdom, as well.
I
that-
thought it maybe the symbolism of that is a new way, right? A new we're gonna not continue walking on the same path, right? From now on, I'm gonna walk on a new path, that kind of
Wow,
thing.
I haven't thought about that, Paksan. That's an amazing reflection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start a new
Yeah.
tradition.
No, in fact, the word fitrah, maybe Ustaz Khalid, you can explain, because you have Eidul Fitri, right? The Arabic. So maybe you can explain the term.
All right. So as we know that Hari Raya Puasa is also known in Arabic term is Eidul Fitri, right? So fitr or fitrah is something that we would say natural disposition. So we consider ourselves to go back to our natural self. So during the 30 days of fasting, we have performed and we have observed the night prayers alongside our obligatory prayers. We have done a lot of good deeds and righteous deeds. So not only we recite the Quran, but we also have something that is known as zakat. Right? So zakat is something that we give from an obligatory alms, right? So something that we give to a certain amount to a specific group of individuals, right? Specific group of people, in order to help them and to elevate their hardship. So after going through all of this, the whole process of reading the Quran, observing the night prayers, giving zakat, doing all forms of righteousness, and then we are also encouraged, especially in the month of Ramadan, to seek God's forgiveness, especially during the last 10 nights. It holds a very significant position in the heart of the Muslims. So after the whole process, then on the day of Eidul Fitri, this is when we return back to our natural self. We return back to the way that, we, as though we are newly born, without sins. And we go back to what we are supposed or intended to be. So we are supposed to be very beneficial to the community. We are supposed to be someone that the community will look up to. We are supposed to be the source of peace. We are supposed to be spreading peace all around. So that's the whole concept of fitrah. that it does not goes against human natural disposition.
Wow, that's deep. All right. Thank you for sharing all that. One final question. Is there a proper way to greet a Muslim on this day, Hari Raya Puasa Day?
Well, it depends on which culture or which community you are from.
Okay, well, in Singapore, for example.
Okay, we do not have a very fixed saying that during Hari Raya you're supposed to say certain things. We are not, we don't have a fixed saying. In fact, we don't even have a Singapore greeting, I would say. It goes back to the community that they grew up with. So you'll find that usually from the Arabs, right? So among the Arabs, they would say, perhaps, of course, it's naturally they're going to speak in Arabic. They would say, "Min al-a'idin wal faizin wa kullu 'am wa antum bil khair." So
okay, I'm not going to say that.
Right. In essence, or you might find that in the Malay, usually in a Malay community, we would say Selamat Hari Raya, Maaf Zahir dan Batin. So we are going to say that it's celebrations of Hari Raya, all right? It's joyous occasions, celebrations of Hari Raya, and we seek forgiveness. Right, maaf zahir dan batin. So we seek forgiveness and outwardly and inwardly, in a sense that whatever that we have caused harm to you, intentionally or otherwise, we seek forgiveness from you, and we seek, that we are going to be, well, in the modern term that we have today, the youngsters would say kosong kosong. All right, I don't really prefer this term, but this is something that's being used by the youngsters. They say kosong kosong means 0-0. So you have not wronged me, and I've not wronged you. And should we have any mistakes with each other, let's just forgive each other. So that's where you have from among the Malay community. From the Indian community, sometimes you will find that they said Eid Mubarak, right? And the saying might change. In Indonesia, they might say Salam Lebaran and so on. So it's not something that's fixed. I might not even know, what they might say in China, perhaps. Or even in some other parts of the country.
But let's say for me as a Chinese, if I want to greet a Malay Muslim, is it sufficient just to say, Selamat Hari Raya Puasa?
You can just say Selamat Hari Raya. That would be sufficient.
Oh, just okay.
Yeah.
All right. So because Puasa is over and they don't need to be reminded.
It's okay. You might ask them, you're happy because in a way we've gone through.
Okay, all right. So Selamat Hari Raya. Okay. All right. So to you, Hafiz, and to you, Ustaz Khalid, I want to wish you Selamat Hari Raya.
Thank you very much, and hope that you have a joyous celebrations with your Malay Muslim friends as well.
Yes. Yeah. All right. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for giving me such a all-rounded appreciation and understanding of both the fasting month as well as the day of celebration. Thank you for that, and wish you all the best.